Hi, I'm Ken Brown, CEO of Destiny Global, and welcome to this edition of Success Tips. What is Success Tips? It is a bi-weekly teaching that Jackie, Carmen, and I do to add value to you, to help you stay on track with your thinking, to keep your mindset moving forward. And this week, I want to talk to you about the law of honor. And when you think about honor, there's a lot of different definitions. If you go look in the dictionary, especially Mr. Webster, you're going to see one of them says it's someone that is highly esteemed. Those are big words, kind of sometimes hard to wrap our head around. The one that I like to talk about is really a person that keeps his word, a person that is someone you want to be around. And I want to kind of focus on that definition rather than the big definition of highly esteemed. Because so often when we're around someone that we want to be around, why is that? It's because they add value to our life. Think about that in business. Someone that actually tells you something and they keep their word. Oh my goodness, they actually do what they said they were going to do. Think about that in the larger play of like going to a restaurant. I recently went to a restaurant, ordered a meal. It's supposed to be this spectacular meal. I was so looking forward to it. And those of you who know, as I've been watching what I eat and making sure, so when I go for a treat, I want it to be spectacular. I want it to be something worthwhile. Well, I got it, and it didn't quite live up to what it was touted to be to me. And really so much so that it was almost unedible. So when you think about someone advertising something to be something fantastic and it's less than that, you're starting to realize that people don't always, or restaurants or whatever it is, don't always match with the expectation that you've been told. So when you think about honor, it goes hand in hand with something else. Not only what you're told, but what you trust that someone's going to do. And that becomes a person that is esteemed, kind of bringing those definitions together. Like, how do you esteem someone? It means someone has actually done something that you can see that they've done that you may want to replicate yourself. That's a pretty big definition if you think about it. It's a powerful definition. Someone that's done something that you yourself would like to do. And I want to talk to you about that today, because so often in the workplace, we can find people and we can find situations that we see that people tell us they're going to do one thing, but in fact, they do another. And sometimes it can be because of missed expectations. It can be of unclear objectives, or it can be, frankly, because a person said they could do something and they can't, okay? That's why it's so important that you look at people and understand who you're placing in the seat of honor. Have they actually done what they said they could do? And we see this more and more in today's society, as you see especially on what I'm doing right now in videoing something. You get videos of people doing all kinds of things. And the reality of the situation is most of them have not done what they say that they have done. They have not achieved the greatness that they say that they've achieved. And how do we know these things? Well, you can look at their life outside. We can see a business person that says that they're highly successful, yet they find themselves in trouble over and over and over again, because they've not done business in an appropriate fashion. Making people, they purchase something that wasn't delivered to them on time. There are a few companies that you can look at and say, wow, this is a company that actually honors what they said they're going to do to me. And there's a few examples that people give me quite frequently about customers and places that have done really well for them. One of those is actually interesting, Amazon. Amazon tends to say that they're going to deliver something, and 9 times out of 10, they do it. They have a very high customer satisfaction rate. And if you don't like it, it's easy to return. So when you think about honor in the sense of a company, it's a company that says they're going to do Y, and they actually do Y. A company that tells you they're going to do Y and delivers X, which means they missed the goal, then you need to start thinking about why are you doing business with that company, because they keep missing your expectations. And actually, expectations are something I want to talk about as well, because sometimes in our lives, we can have expectations placed on us that tell us that we need to be honoring to certain people. Sometimes it can be parents, sometimes it can be in-laws, especially as we approach the holiday season, okay? So often we find ourselves getting caught in the traditions of man, and you're feeling led. Let's use an example. So let's say that you're being felt called to go serve on Thanksgiving Day. You're called to go serve at a soup kitchen. You're going to go serve at Salvation Army. You're going to go serve people a meal. but the traditions of your family says you shouldn't do that. You should be with us doing this over here, but yet you're feeling a strong calling to go do this service for that day. That creates a dilemma. So honor, most people would say that default automatically means you go do the tradition of man. But then you find yourself in a quandary, because then you're going against the honor of what God's calling you to do. And I use the term, this would be goodwill to go do this over here and support your family. But God's will may be something over here that calls you to go serve, go do something. And that creates a conflict within you. So there's a way that I want to talk to you about today to be honoring when you find yourself in situations just like this, where you're feeling called to go do something, but there's expectations, long-seated expectations, not just something that just come up yesterday. This is something that is annual that your family does together. You're saying, Ken, how could you even talk about this? Because it happens more frequently than we all really want to admit. We felt called to go do this, but we're doing something other than that because we want to please man. Now, we have to be careful that we're balancing the will of God versus man. And sometimes there's even compromises that can be found, right? You'll go serve and then you'll go spend time with family over here. However, what I have found in my own life is that family expectations try to drive everything for the whole day, okay? Everything that's going to happen. From the time that you get up, you need to have the XY design. You need to be here by noon. We're going to be eating at this time. We're going to watch a football game at this time. We're going to go do this at this time. There would be no time for you to actually fulfill the calling that you feel in your heart. And that's where you need to use your words honorably to go and address the family and say, hey, I feel called to do this. I won't be able to be at dinner until 3 o'clock. I know that you guys may want to eat before that, and that's fine. But we'll come by and still visit because you guys are important to us. However, we're going to go serve those that are in need on Thanksgiving Day, to serve, to bless them, to be something bigger, to be part of something bigger that we feel very called to as a family, right? As you do this, what you're going to find is as you honor your family, they're going to honor the work that you're doing. But guess what? If you continue to give in over here, what you're going to find is that you feel unfulfilled because you're doing goodwill, but you're not doing God's will. Now, I'm using that example. It can be so many other things. And so many of us get caught in these situations. I call it the internal tug of war. What I'm going to tell you to do is first is stop and consider what God is really telling you, how you're feeling called, what you're feeling called to go do. You're saying, Ken, you're talking about something that isn't totally applicable to me. Absolutely it is, because this can be in the place of work. There's some traditions that always happen at work, yet you know that you need to get something done. You know that there's a deadline that's looming over here. Maybe you could push it for a day because of this long honored tradition over here, right? I've actually been faced with that in work myself, right? There was a golf tournament that I was expected to participate in, yet it conflicted with the business planning meeting with the client. And here I was weighing between the two. So I went in the morning and met with the client. And I went and didn't get to play all 18 holes. I got to play 9 on the back 9 with the team so that I could continue to be a part of what they felt was important, but also care for my client because I want to be a man of honor. And sometimes that calls you to be flexible. Okay? When you think about great leaders, when you think about Henry Ford, for example, when he built the first automobiles, he wasn't very flexible. And in fact, that's how General Motors was born. General Motors, because you could get any Ford car you wanted as long as it came in the color black. General Motors came along, learned the same processes he did, and said, hey, you can not only have the car in black, you can have it in blue or several different colors. And so they began to give the clients what they wanted, not what they could just produce. Now think about that for a minute. General Motors started meeting the expectations of clients, and they raised the bar, the standard. And so what did that do? That made a client feel honored in the process, that they weren't just buying something that someone else had, that they could get something that was a little more unique. How many of us want that, to feel unique and different? So as you consider the law of honor, it's really thinking about how you're serving people around you. Serving your family, serving in business, Some of you serving church, it could be a synagogue, wherever your place of worship may be, or if it's just serving the community at large, whatever that may look like to you. The fact is everything always, there's a give and take on both sides of it. So as you're approaching this holiday season, I challenge you to think about where you're spending the time that's going to impact and where you're feeling called. You have a desire to go do something. Press into that a little further. Give yourself permission to be a person of honor. Now respect those around you, respect the situation that you find yourself walking into, and know that at times you're going to get resistance. You're going to get resistance. There's almost no time that April and I, my wife, Dr. April Brown, who's done so much with me here at this company, but when I think about what we've had to go through with family dynamics and where we're supposed to be, and sometimes we're supposed to be at two places at once, how's that going to work out? And many of you are going to find yourself in that same situation. It's coming to a point where you can be honorable in both situations. Sometimes it means that you won't be able to be with one family. Sometimes it may not be able to be that you're going to be able to serve in multiple places. But whatever you do, do it with your whole heart. Give it everything you have. Because here's what happens. When you do that, you're being honorable. Because you're going in and you're giving it your best. You're showing the person that you're with. You're esteeming the position that they've entrusted you with. Whether that be in business, whether that be in your volunteering, whether that be at home with your kids. Keep your word. Because the core of honor is a person that keeps their word. A person that lives up to the commitments that they've made for themselves. Not that someone else has placed on them. That's a totally different conversation. And that's a whole nother teaching, actually. Is making sure that you're staying true to what you feel called to do and fulfilling that. And I wish you and yours the most amazing holiday season as you start preparing, as you start watching this. You're already in the month of November. Thanksgiving is quickly approaching. And a number of other multitude of holidays, depending on, because our audience, so many people celebrate different things. And I just want to encourage you to step in and weigh this season, goodwill versus God's will. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Success Tips.